Some names are written in books, others are written in fire. Solomon is both. You can flip through scripture, study ancient stone, follow the trails of royal lineages and temple scrolls. But if you only search the surface, you'll miss him entirely. Because Solomon doesn't live in history, he dwells in the liminal, in that thin veil between fact and myth, between theology and the occult. He was not just a king, he was a technician of the unseen, a man who wielded the unspeakable name of the divine, who sealed spirits with symbols and spoke in a language that didn't just describe the world, it reshaped it. Solomon engineered the invisible, and what he built wasn't just a temple, it was a gate. We're not here to talk about the Solomon of children's Bibles or royal genealogies. We're speaking of the whispered Solomon, the one spoken of in the flickering corners of the yeshiva, in the breath of Sufi mystics, in the manuscripts of Arabic magicians who claim he spoke with wind, communed with birds, and sealed entities with rings of power. This is the Solomon who appears in Hebrew Kabbalah, in Hermetic texts, and in forgotten grimoires, not as a ruler, but as an operator of the sacred machine. He did not simply rule over land, he ruled over layers of reality. And in this video, we won't be tracing the timeline of a monarch. We'll be stepping across the threshold into the hidden side of a temple that wasn't just built of stone, but of intention, geometry, and vibration. They say the world was created by letters of fire, but Solomon did something bolder. He made that fire take form. When he raised his temple, it wasn't just architecture, it was code, a living algorithm in limestone and cedar. Most see the temple as a historical achievement, a monument of religion. But to initiates, it was a mirror of the cosmos, a ritual machine calibrated not to contain men, but to house the unspeakable. Kabbalists teach that the universe was formed by the 22 Hebrew letters, each one a frequency, a number, a geometry, not symbols, but forces. Solomon built with these letters, not measurements. He wrote space. In the Sefer Yetzirah, attributed to Abraham, or perhaps to the mystical current Solomon inherited, those same letters are described as seals on the corners of the universe. Meaning the temple wasn't just a sanctuary, it was a lock, a spell in stone. The Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodashim, was a perfect cube. Not an aesthetic choice, but a symbolic formula. The cube is stability, earth, form, manifestation. In esoteric thought, it is the stone of the adept, the perfected self. Scholar Gershom Scholem called the temple the architectural embodiment of the tree of life, each chamber, each artifact mapped onto a sephira. So walking through the temple wasn't walking at all, it was ascending, or descending. A ritual climb through the cosmos, from Malkuth to Keter. This isn't exclusive to Judaism. Egyptian temples were fossilized gods. Indian mandalas were cosmological floor plans. Gothic cathedrals encoded sacred math in every arch. Across all traditions, architecture was magic, and Solomon was its master. But he didn't do it alone. The Book of Kings introduces us to Hiram Abiff, the craftsman from Tyre. Ostensibly, he forged the temple's instruments. But to the initiated, he represents something deeper. The fusion of pagan firecraft and Hebrew revelation. The convergence of two ancient wisdoms, long separated, suddenly unified. Yet a question lingers through centuries. Where did Solomon get the blueprint? Scripture says, from God. But apocryphal texts whisper another origin. In the Testament of Solomon, dated around the 2nd century CE, the king learns not from angels, but from entities below. Demons, if you believe the labels. One, Asmodeus, appears in both Jewish and Persian lore. Solomon subdues him, not with force, but with a ring gifted by the archangel Michael, engraved with the Shem HaMepharash, the 72-part name of the divine. This ring was more than jewelry, it was the boundary between the seen and unseen. With it, Solomon didn't banish spirits, he employed them. Each stone of the temple was placed by invisible hands. This unnerves the religious, but it thrills the initiate. Because the truth of magic is this: order is born from chaos. The temple wasn't built by purity, it was built by integration. Solomon didn't reject darkness. He bound it, understood it, and made it serve the word. The Freemasons carry this legacy. To them, Solomon is the eternal architect. Every initiation is a symbolic reconstruction of the temple, not in stone, but in psyche. Each degree a new chamber, each symbol a mirror. The temple never truly ended. It wasn't destroyed. It's rebuilt every time a seeker begins the work of inner alignment. At its core, the temple hides nothing, literally. The Holy of Holies was empty. No image, no throne, just a space for the Shekinah, the divine presence, to hover. It was a room designed for the unnameable. And Solomon, he didn't just speak with God, he listened to the abyss. His wisdom was both a gift and a burden. The Ring of Solomon, the symbol of his power, was carved not just with the divine name, but with intention. The 72 names weren't just words, they were frequencies, codes, a celestial keyboard that could play the architecture of existence. With it, he summoned, not to destroy, but to question. Solomon interrogated spirits, mapped their functions, learned their stars, because the magician doesn't conquer chaos, he makes it knowable. Each of the 72 spirits corresponds to one of the divine names. Light and shadow, reflected, not evil but unbalanced forces. Elements of the inner and outer world, fear, ambition, memory, passion, all made visible. This is the Goetia, the Lemegeton, the grimoires that describe not demons but teachers cloaked in fire. To summon them is to confront yourself, because Solomon's spirits don't live in hell, they live in you. And the ring, it is not an artifact. It is the circle of will, wielded by one who knows the name, who speaks the true word, and who has walked through shadow without fear. The Quran speaks of Solomon as Suleiman, the prophet king who commanded jinn and wind, birds and beasts. But even there, the story ends not with power, but with decay. The moment of his death comes only when his staff breaks and his body falls. The illusion of control ends, and the truth is revealed, because power without wisdom is temporary, and wisdom without humility is dangerous. In later traditions, from Gnosticism to Kabbalah, from Sufism to Freemasonry, Solomon becomes not a character, but a symbol of initiation, of the ruler who stumbles, the seer who sees too much. Ecclesiastes, attributed to Solomon, is not triumphant, it's haunted. With much wisdom comes sorrow, the more knowledge, the more grief. Not despair, but revelation, because to see clearly is also to see the void behind the stage. Solomon becomes the archetype of the divided self, a man who mapped the stars but couldn't navigate his own heart. His many wives, not indulgence. They are archetypes, facets of the primordial feminine, of Sophia, of Shekinah. Feminine wisdom he could name, but never fully grasp. Solomon knew the shape of heaven, but the price was heavy. His fall was not failure, it was initiation, because the path to wisdom always moves through the shadow, and in every age, Solomon returns. As a symbol, as an archetype, in grimoires, in orders, in rituals whispered at midnight, he is the Magus Regis, the builder of the inner temple, and that temple still stands within you. If these words stirred something deeper than curiosity, share them with someone ready to cross the veil. And remember, there is a time to speak and a time to be silent. Now, it's your move. Solomon is not merely a figure from the Bible. He is a sacred archetype, a spiritual cipher decoded only by those who dare to step into the darkness in search of light. In Hermetic texts, he is the great alchemist, the one who turns words into magic and architecture into ritual. In Gnostic tradition, he is the bearer of gnosis, the liberating knowledge, but also the one brought to the edge by his own madness. This brings us to one of the central paradoxes of every esoteric tradition. The one who knows too much is often the loneliest. And Solomon in Ecclesiastes spoke, "All is vanity." In Hebrew, the word hevel means mist, something that cannot be grasped. His knowledge did not lead to absolute power, but to profound sorrow. We look again at Solomon's ring, not merely as a tool to summon or seal, but as an inner symbol, the circle of focused will, the seal of a conquered ego. The bearer of that ring is not the ruler of the outer world, but the one who has healed the inner world, the one who balances between word and silence, between power and surrender. Across many sacred lineages, from the Rosicrucians to Tibetan mysticism, from Tantra to Martinism, Solomon stands at the crossroads of light and shadow, of blood and order, of the divine and the human. He built the outer temple in order to learn how to build the inner one. But the story doesn't end there, because Solomon lives within each of us, in everyone who seeks the truth behind form, in anyone who feels an invisible fire burning in their heart, calling them to a higher mission, to build the inner temple, one stone at a time, one ritual at a time, one silence at a time. Grimoires like the Key of Solomon or the Lesser Key are not just manuals for summoning, they are living ciphers. Every comma is a symbol of consciousness. Every ritual is a step in the choreography of the soul, and every entity that can be summoned is a forgotten fragment of our own spirit. So, if you're hearing these words and they don't just feel like information, but like remembrance, then understand this. You've already begun your own great work. The work of the image maker, the apprentice rebuilding the Temple of Solomon, not in the desert, but in the soul. And every step in that work will require courage, not to summon demons, but to look directly at your own shadow and transmute it into light. Because true light does not come from banishing the dark. It comes from understanding it and placing it in its rightful place. Solomon no longer walks this earth, but he still whispers, in dreams, in these symbols. In those moments when you think you already know enough, but feel that something deeper is still missing. Solomon is a mirror, but not to reflect your face, to reflect your soul. If you hear that call, share this video with someone else who is awakening, and leave your mark in the comments, not just with words, but with will. For as Solomon once said, there is a time to be silent and a time to speak. Now the time has come. You have heard the story. Now you begin to write your part. The evolution of Solomon in secret orders and grimoires. After Solomon's shadow faded from religious texts, he did not disappear. On the contrary, he expanded. No longer the king of a single nation, Solomon became the king of symbols. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, he reappeared in a wave of grimoires, books of magic, not meant to tell stories but to transmit codes. Clavicula Salomonis, the Key of Solomon, and Lemegeton, the Lesser Key, are not books of ordinary knowledge. They are expressive maps, written in symbolic language, meant for those whose inner translation has already begun, a language that is never spoken. They describe rituals of summoning, how to draw protective circles, align metals with the proper days, hours, and positions of the celestial intelligences. But beneath those technical instructions lies a deeper subtlety. Who can summon a spirit without first mastering themselves? Every demon named in the Goetia is in fact a wild facet of the human mind, an unintegrated energy, a buried archetype. Freemasonry, the eternal Solomon. No symbol of Solomon is more alive than in Freemasonry. Every initiation is a rebirth of Solomon's temple, not with stone and mortar, but with will, silence, and the rebirth of the self. The apprentice is guided through stages, slowly building the divine temple within. Hiram Abith, the master builder slain while guarding the temple's secret plans, becomes the symbol of inner death and resurrection. The temple is no longer a place, it becomes a process. Each stone is an ethical choice, each pillar a virtue, and the keystone, the state of union between soul and cosmos. Solomon, in the secret orders, is not just a symbol, he is a guide in the dark. In Sufi, Tantric, and Gnostic traditions, in Sufism, Solomon is the one who could hear the speech of birds, meaning the pure soul, unburdened by conditioning or fragmentation. In Tantra, the image of the king with many wives is not simply about sensuality, but an allegory for his potential to unite with the many faces of Shakti, the divine feminine force of the universe. Solomon did not fall because of beauty, but because the mind had not yet fully aligned with the heart. In Gnostic Christianity, Solomon is seen as an aeon, an emanated soul of divine knowledge trapped in the material world. His fall is not failure, but a map, a blueprint of the soul's journey through the fragmented realm, seeking the light. And today, Solomon still lives, not in the Temple of Jerusalem, but in every incantation of modern magic, every symbol etched into a sigil, talisman, or summoning circle, every inward act when someone chooses to face their own inner darkness and turn it into fuel for their light. Solomon is the inner architect, the sacred magician, the one who knows their true name, and the one who stays silent, knowing too much to ever fully hold life in their hands. And what about you? Where are you in the work? Laying your first stones, or wandering in the labyrinth of your own mind? Don't be afraid. As in all esoteric traditions, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It may come as a symbol, a dream, a door, or a video like this one. If something within you stirs at these words, then mark this moment. Leave your trace below. It doesn't need to be long. Just a word, a symbol, a number, if you understand the deeper meaning of this path. For Solomon once said, "Those who seem unimportant may speak little, yet their words unlock worlds." And the next world might begin with a comment.